Esta es la entrevista con Sir Richard Branson.
We understand that you are here because of some sort of ideas that we are discussing in Mexico about drugs and regulation. I want to ask you, are drugs a good idea? Do you think drugs are a good idea?
Alcohol in a limit. If you limit the amount you take, is okay. Drugs, if you limit the amount you take, is okay. Anybody who does anything in excess, then obviously it's not a good idea. But what we're discussing here in Mexico is I think even more serious than that, and that is, has the war on drugs worked in the last 60 years, or has it created problems here in Mexico? And as a businessman, I would have closed the war on drugs down, 60 years ago, because it's been an abject failure. It's resulted in Mexico becoming a perilous state in some of your provinces. It's resulted in a lot of crime, and a lot of people have been killed. Enormous amounts of people being sent to prison, and lives have been ruined. And as part of the Global Drug Commission, what we're saying to leaders worldwide is treat drugs as a health problem. Do not treat drugs as a criminal problem. If you treat it as a criminal problem, you drive it underground in the same way that prohibition of alcohol drove it underground in America and created Al Capone. Change tact, to try a different approach. And if you try a different approach, we think the countries that have tried a different approach have got on top of the drug problem.
Are they listening to you?
Some countries are listening. Interestingly, the United States of America, that was the perhaps worst offender in lecturing countries in South America and Africa and around the world about, telling them that they had to have a draconian drug policy. They are now themselves legalizing marijuana in Colorado and Washington State, and there's medical marijuana in many states now in America, and so their moral authority to lecture other countries has gone, and I think other countries now must realize that they don't have to wait for America to tell them to give them permission to do what's right in their country. They must go ahead and just do what's right, in the same way that America is now finally seeing the light.
Politicians doubt about this. In Mexico they do. What would you tell those ones that are doubting about this?
I would ask them to look at other countries. Portugal, 12 years ago, they said, we're not going to send anybody ever again to prison for taking any kind of drugs, heroin, cocaine, marijuana. If somebody has a drug problem, they can come to us and we'll help them get off their drug problem. If somebody has a heroin problem, we will supply the methadone to help them get off heroin. We'll supply clean needles to stop them spreading HIV, and the amount of people taking heroin has dropped dramatically. They've got on top of the problem, and drugs is now no longer an issue in Portugal. It used to be number 3 on what the public worried about. Now it's about number 17. And the way the politicians presented it at the time, they said, if your brother or sister or if your children had a drug problem, would you rather we sent them to prison or would you rather we helped them? And when you put it down like that to people, and almost every single parent will say, we'd rather you help them. And that's what we would say in Mexico. Would you rather your children be sent to prison if they have a problem, or would you rather they be helped? And I think if politicians take that approach, they'll be able to get the Mexican public to realize that there needs to be a change.
But do you think can we say that the economics of the drug trafficking industry are deterring politicians to just approve a better regulation?
Look, the drug industry is pervasive in so many ways in Mexico. It has resulted in corruption in your courts. It's resulted in corruption in your police. It's done enormous damage in Mexico, and therefore it's going to need a brave leader to change the approach.
Do you think we have that leader here in Mexico?
I honestly don't know. We'll have to. The jury is out. We'll have to see. We'll have to see whether I'm going tomorrow to meet many politicians from right across all sectors, and after that.
Have you met President Peña Nieto?
I haven't met him yet, but a lot of people on the Commission have. So President Cardozo, who used to be President of Brazil, he's met him. We've got ex-presidents from Mexico who are on the Global Drug Commission, and I think we'll have to see whether he grasps. I mean, he's grasping the thing that is needed to make business reform in Mexico. But if you don't actually sort out the judicial system, and if you don't sort out the legal system, and if you don't sort out corruption, you're never going to have Mexico become the great country it could become.
Are you faithful on President Peña Nieto's leadership on this specific topic?
I cannot comment. It's too soon to say. The jury is out, but I mean, he has an enormous opportunity to change the image of Mexico worldwide by tackling this problem. And what I would urge him to do is to get his brightest politicians to sit down with the Global Drug Commission. We'll spend a week together. We'll work out what is the best way forward for Mexico, and it may be a number of different ways. We could have one state can try regulation, another state can try decriminalization. You can have different approaches in different states, and then after a year or two, see which is working best. But the current system is broken and it needs to be fixed.
But drugs make people happy. Would you say so?
Not necessarily. I think I think people are generally happiest when they're fit, healthy. They've done lots of sport. They drink lots of water, and you can be high on life just with the natural adrenaline of life. But we pretty well every single politician drinks a little bit, and I'm not sure they're happier for drinking a little bit, but at least they're not going to prison for doing it. And the young people, they might smoke a spliff. They're not necessarily, they may be happier for a little while, but but they shouldn't be sent to prison for doing it. I mean, you just got to get a balance.
Are you happy, Mr. Branson?
I'm happy, but I happen not to take drugs. But I don't drink too much. I mean, I'm happy on the wonderful life I lead.
Are you happy because of your businesses?
I'm happy because I love creating things. I've got, I've just launched Virgin Mobile in Mexico.
What's your expectation on that?
I think it's going to do very well. It's aimed at young people. It's got a very good, honest proposition. Virgin brand is very strong. I've just been with all the staff. They're wonderful. They're committed, and we'll add some competition here, which is good. And we'll do other things here in Mexico. But I enjoy life enormously. But I think also, I have a responsibility to speak out when I think that politicians perhaps need some outside advice. And I think business leaders and other politicians who've seen a lot of these problems around the world and can see ways of fixing problems, it would be irresponsible of us if not to speak out and try to get these problems fixed.
Last question, Mr. Branson. Our producer who is in this very room said earlier this morning, I want to work for Virgin. How come did you create such a culture that everyone wants to work for you?
Well, I think Virgin, we do realize that our people, all the company is a group of people. I mean, it's nothing more than that, and we also realize that people spend most of their time at work, so it should be enjoyable, it should be pleasurable, it should be a really a wonderful experience, and we employ people to run our companies that make it a wonderful experience. And we tried to bring in innovative new ideas. So I mean, recently we've just said as an experiment, anybody who wants to take holiday anytime they want, they can take it. They just, obviously must get their work done. But if you want, if it's your birthday, take your birthday off. If there's a special wedding, go to it. And so I think we're a company that is always trying to think how would we like to be treated, and then do that with our staff as well.
Only Virgin Mobile in this country, Mexico, or more?
No, I think and it's quite important if the government can get security issues sorted, if they can get the rule of law sorted, if we can stamp out corruption in Mexico, then we will invest enormously in Mexico. But in the meantime, we'll see how Virgin Mobile goes, and we're also talking about radio stations in Mexico, so we may try that as well.
Media. Media, the media. You like to enter the media.
Yeah, no, we're looking at that, but I mean, ultimately, even more importantly than our businesses is just Mexico can be, the greatest country in the world. I mean, one of the greatest, if not the greatest country in the world. Is that exciting for Mexico? And they just need politicians to grasp this particular nettle and get it sorted, and it can be sorted.